Probably will be a smoke show if this does start. I've done some test cuts with this and it performs flawlessly. I love it. Hey, what's going on everybody? Alex here with Freedom Mowers. I hope you all are doing well. Today we have a John Deere that I picked up last year for $100 with a blown engine, and we're gonna go ahead and try to see what's going on with it and hopefully get a new engine on there and get this thing running. So let's check it out. All right, and here it is. We have a John Deere LA 105. This is a 5-speed tractor, not the hydro. I picked this up last year for $100. He was asking $250 in the ad, said that it was having engine troubles. Went over there, took a look at it. I spun over the engine by hand. It had no compression. I was thinking possibly could be a valve adjustment, but we went ahead and pulled the spark plug out while I was there, and we put a screwdriver in just to check it because I wanted to let him know what I thought was going on with it as well. The piston was not moving at all, so we definitely have a blown connecting rod on here. I told him I could give him $100 on the spot and take it home, and he said load it up. So he helped me push it on the trailer, and it has been sitting since last fall. We have a 19.5 Briggs & Stratton Intech on here, single cylinder, and if you guys can see, the valve cover is just absolutely caked in oil all around the exhaust and the spark plug. There's a bunch down in here in this heat shroud. The fins are not packed, but there's a lot of oil here and all over the drain port. So he told me that once he heard basically the engine let go, he didn't know what the sound was. He topped it off with oil, couldn't get it to start, put a new spark plug in, couldn't get it to start. Obviously it's not going to run putting oil in it after it's already blown. So the overall condition of the tractor is pretty good, I would say. I'm not sure the year on it. We'll take a look at the valve cover once we can get the oil off from it, but the hood's in good shape. There's just a little gouge on there. I remember the deck was in good shape. There's definitely a forest growing in here right now, and these under the covers are just packed with grass, so we're gonna have to get all that cleaned off. Seat is torn. Pan on here, the body is actually in really good shape. I don't see any paint chips, which is very surprising. Most of the time on these there's paint flaking everywhere. That's really about it. I think the tires actually held air. I pushed it over here, the brake was kind of locked up. But yeah, that's basically an overview. We'll get a jumper pack on here and we'll check the hours on it when we get it pulled in the shop. And I have a 17.5 Intech that I pulled off from a mower that went to the scrapyard, and I know that it ran, at least it ran. I don't know if it ran well or not, so we will get all that sorted out. But let me get this in the shop and we'll get started. And on doing one of these swaps, we basically just need to disconnect the fuel. We're gonna have to take the throttle cable off. See, we're gonna have to disconnect the exhaust on this side. We'll probably just take it right off from the cylinder head. Then we need to take off the starter wire. The engine harness just has a clip here, and then we'll be taking off the pulley from the bottom of the engine, the double stack. If we need to, we'll slip the belts off from that. And then we just have 4 bolts on the bottom side of the engine. Now this one does have the fuel pump that's mounted to the blower shroud, or the upper cover. So we'll just disconnect the hoses on that. Since this is a rear tank machine, just has that fuel pump. But let me get the jumper pack. We'll hook it up to the cables. We'll check the hours on here, and then we'll get started pulling this thing apart. All right, I got the pack hooked up here. And we have, if y'all can see that, 357.9 hours on it. So it has a fair amount of hours on this. I will go ahead and get you guys on the tripod, and we're going to start getting stuff disconnected, and we'll get this engine swapped out. All right, on this one, I will show you guys just real quick. I don't need to disconnect the fuel solenoid, but I'm going to be taking this cover and putting it on our new one. And the fuel pump is mounted to this, so the easiest way for me to do it is to go ahead and disconnect the fuel hose at the carb. We will disconnect the fuel hose here on the top, which comes from the tank, and then the one right here on this side I'm going to disconnect from over. There should be a breather hose over there, and that's what actually sends the pulse to your fuel pump. So we'll disconnect all the lines, and then we just have 4 3/8 bolts around the outside, and then the whole shroud will come off. So I'm gonna work on that. I'll put it on time lapse so you guys can see me take it off. We've got the upper cover off. You guys can see now too all of the sludge in here. I don't know if this headlamp is flashing for you guys, hopefully not. All the sludge that was down in here, to me it looks like there was a head gasket issue, and it may not have totally been an oil leak. It could have been an oil leak and a head gasket at the same time. But if you do have a head gasket leak, that can cause overheating, and that was probably most likely the culprit. The piston got too hot, seized itself into the cylinder when it was warm, and the rod just disconnected. We're pretty much good as far as the upper cover. We just got to take this off. I got to get the bit for that, and this one is just a Torx bit. We don't even have to take this all the way out, just enough to free the cable, and then you can just slide that right out. Cable's disconnected, so we should be good on this side. We'll move right over to the other side. And then on this side, I believe this is a 7/16. It actually came off really easy. So I'll just start that nut back on the stud. That's our starter wire. And then we just have to take off the harness here. That should be it. We just got the exhaust. I'm gonna go ahead and get the Allen wrench for that. I'm hoping that we can just take the 2 out and then slide this pipe out, and we'll leave the muffler attached to the mower. So we'll have these 2. There's a gasket underneath. Hopefully our gasket's still in good shape. Yeah, see, that pipe should come right out if we can get the right angle here. Yep. So we got that. Our gasket is still on here, so we'll just leave that right alone on the pipe. And now we can go ahead and lift up the machine and start on the underside to get this thing loosened up. All right, well, I've got us lifted up here in the front. I'm gonna show y'all what we're gonna have to do here on this machine. So our double stack pulley that we got to take off the front of the mowing deck and the rod that connects it are going to be in the way. So what I'm going to do is drop down the front of the deck onto this jack stand, and we will pull that rod out, and that will give us enough clearance to go ahead and get the double stack pulley off. And then we'll just have the 4 bolts underneath, and then we will be all the way loosened up. All right, and I did go ahead and get I didn't have to remove the rod. I just swung it over to the side, and we've got the jack stand on the deck, which should give us enough clearance on that pulley. We had it's gonna be a 5/8 on the pulley, and then on the 4 engine bolts was a 15. I got a 6.15, and I'm gonna try to do this one-handed. See, the deck's still kind of in the way for me. See if I can get on there at least. All right, so at least got that loose. Push that back up a little farther. I can't do this one-handed, but I'm just gonna slip the belt off the edges, and then that will give us enough room to drop this down, and then I can get to those 4 bolts. We got one there, one right there, and then one in the other corner. So I'm gonna get all that loosened up. I'll show you guys once we've got this engine ready to pull. All right, I got the double stack pulley off and got the 4 bolts out. I was just kind of looking over to make sure. I think we are ready to go. We should just be able to pick this right up now and get this off. Well, now we can see all the grime under here. So I think what we'll go ahead and do is I'll get this pulled out. I'm gonna bring it over. I'm just gonna pressure wash all the area for the engine mounting, and then just under the dash. That way we've got a nice clean area to work. And then I will get the other engine into the shop, and we will basically just go in reverse order, getting that hooked up and hopefully getting this thing running. I'd like to see, at least make sure the transmission's working. We're probably gonna have to pull the deck off from it to get the spindle covers off, get everything cleaned up and make sure it's good, but yeah, not too bad. Right, I got this over here and started to hose it off. I got to get the pressure washer, but I did go ahead and pull those spindle covers off because I could just see how much stuff was under there. But I wanted to show y'all how much grass was actually packed up underneath of here and just dirt. So, and this is one of the big reasons why these decks rot out. You know, that stuff sits under there with moisture and it just holds it in. So hopefully we don't have any damage, but I'm gonna get the pressure washer. The other side wasn't quite as bad, but you guys can see this is just absolutely packed under here. So I'm gonna get this hose down, pull it back in the shop, and we can get that new engine on. All right, and I got the mower pressure washed. I probably spent 30 minutes just hosing this thing off. There was so much grass packed on the transmission, just in the frame rails, the gas tank in the rear. It was a lot. But here is our engine that we've got. I did take a look. So that one is a 2010, the one that came off from it. And it was a 19.5. This is a 2008, 17.5. So we'll be pretty good. And I will disclose to the buyer that the engine was changed on it. You guys saw how basically everything came off, so I'm going to go ahead and basically just get this thing mounted up there. 4 bolts, double stack pulley, and start plugging in the wiring. I'm going to take this exhaust off, but I'll show you guys once I get basically everything buttoned up on there, and we can try to go ahead and start it. All right, we officially have ourselves a Crafts John, or a John Man, or a Craft Deere, whatever you want to call it. I've got the bottom buttoned up. We got the 4 bolts. I just used the ones that came right off the other engine. Double stack pulley is mounted up, and all the both of the drive belt and the deck belt are back in the guides, and have the front mount back on the mower deck. So I am missing the clamp on this engine. I'll take it off the other one to put the throttle cable back on. I can go ahead and start it and get it back in its groove. We'll get that clamp, and we've got to get our other cover because of the fuel pump. Now, one of the things, because this was off from a gravity fed Craftsman where the tank was up here, it didn't need to have the fuel pump. Now our other one has the little stud or the nipple on that side, or on the dipstick tube, so we can get a pulse to the pump. So we'll go ahead and swap out that. And I'll show you guys. We'll get this cover off, and we should just be able to plug and play with this one if I've got it in the right direction. I mean, that just plugs right in. We'll put our starter on here. Trying to do this one-handed so you guys can see up close. It's not hard to do a swap, it's just you got to have the right components for it, and a lot of times that's where, when I have spare parts too, it helps a lot. A lot of times with mufflers and things like that, they can be a little bit difficult. Now ours, we'll be able to go ahead and just mount that right back on. And you know, another big thing too is that this came off from a lawnmower that had a manual PTO lever like this one does, so we don't have to have that extra charging system for electric PTO. That's one of the big things. If you've got an electronic PTO, you need to have an alternator that can keep up with it. On a manual PTO, that's something you don't really have to think about. Should be pretty much plug and play. All right, I just got the upper shroud off. You guys can see the difference in engines here. When we took the cover off the other one, what that one looked like compared to this one. Everything looks pretty solid here. I will go ahead and throw that new plug in. But what I've just pulled off the other mower was the dipstick tube here, and you guys can see that fitting, and that's what actually runs the crankcase pressure or the pulse to the fuel pump, and the other one over here does not have it. So these are just simple, it just pulls right out. We'll get our wires out of that little groove there, and it's just held in by an O-ring, so we'll wiggle it out. Try not to get dirt in there. We'll be changing out this oil anyways, but we will swap that one, and this one looks good to just go ahead and drop right in. I'm trying to get everything lined up here. All right, and that's pretty much it. It's just a quick swap on that. Double check. It's full choke, full throttle, full choke. All right, so now we're good. You just got to kind of figure out, like on these, it's got that little stopper right there. You'll feel it. So that's full throttle. We are full throttle, and it's not hitting the choke arm yet with the lever. And then right when we go up a little farther, right there, now we're all the way in a choke, and that's how it's all set up. So now our throttle is good on here, and who knows, this carburetor is probably filthy, so I don't even know if it'll run with this one. We'll have to see. But let's see, we've got our, I've got tools everywhere, y'all can see. We've got to get our starter wire back on, our 7/16. So I'm gonna get this snugged up. I'm gonna get that that exhaust pipe on there as well. But we are pretty good. I've got a brand new battery that I just bought last week because I knew I was gonna need another one. So we're gonna put this brand new battery in, and then I'll put the top cover on and connect up the 3 hoses for the fuel pump. So here we go. There is still some fuel in the tank. It was fresh last year. We're gonna see. Don't even know if this carburetor is gonna work, but let's see. Fingers crossed. We're gonna have to start it for a minute, prime up the pump, and hope that it works. So I know we at least have power. Choke. Here we go. Probably will be a smoke show if this does start, just because I had the engine tipped on its side for a while. We'll see if we can give it a little starter fluid help. Somebody quick grab the AED, right? You guys like my little box there? The defibrillator? The mower starter box? It's already getting smoky in here. Oh my Lord. I'm gonna have to turn the fan on. Good gravy. Trying to see if it'll prime for a good time, you know what I'm saying? All right, I'm gonna have to let this smoke clear out. We'll check the fuel filter, check to see if we're getting at least fuel pump into the carburetor. But it is turning over and it starts, and it sounds healthy at least. All right, well, I tried to fire this back up a few more times with this carburetor, and it will run on choke, but that's about as far as it'll get. I did go ahead and take the carburetor off the other engine, the blown one, and I did just open this up, and it is basically spotless inside. All the gaskets look good and everything looks nice and clear. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take the carburetor from that one and put it on here and see if we can get this thing running. I did go ahead and loosen up the upper shroud. I just got to pull that up a little bit, 2 7/16 nuts on either side, take off the little intake tube, and then 2 5/16. Then you can pull the carb out and swap over the linkages and then button it back up. So I'm gonna get that knocked out, and then we're gonna try cranking this thing again. All right, well, got the carb swapped, cover button back up. Forgot to hook up the fuel solenoid. Well, listen, I can hear that working, and yeah, let's try this again. So we're gonna have to probably take a second to fill up the carburetor bowl again, but hopefully this one will run smooth. My air hose. We cruising. I think that's third gear, fourth, fifth. Very nice. All right, well, we got a successful engine swap and our transmission feels good. We definitely got a, I don't know, that does not look like a factory bolt right there, but I gotta find something to fit in there because that's just coming straight out of the muffler. So that's, it was a bit noisy. It sounded like an exhaust leak. It's coming from right there, but yeah. That is awesome. I tried to earlier pull the deck engagement just to see if it was free, and it's binding up, and I believe it's actually the blade brakes on the deck that are hanging up. So before we go breaking the cable or anything like that, we'll get the mowing deck off from there. Let's get a good look at all the pulleys and everything on it, and see if we can get everything moving nice and free, and then we can just check to make sure there's no binding in the cable. Now on these Edge 42 mowing decks, there is a mount point here on the back side. Just got to take out the pin. That'll be on both sides. Then there is a pin right up here in the middle, goes to this black bar, and then all we should have is just that front to the mowing deck. Slip the belt off, and then we just have a cotter pin right here that holds our cable. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna roll the machine outside. I'm gonna take this off from here, and then we'll get a good look at this mowing deck. So it does look like kind of what I thought happened. The blade brakes themselves are pretty, this one's basically like solid. So what that's doing is because our tensioner pulley, the rod is attached to the blade brake, and so when we go to pull the cable, it only gets to this spot, and then basically it can't pull any farther because this is seized up. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get this all the way cleaned up, at least brushed off for now, and then I'll take some compressed air, clean around all these, and we'll see if we can put some penetrating spray on and get these to free up. And then after that, we should be in pretty good order, because I did feel the idlers and the spindles, and so far they're moving free. Take a quick look at the blades on here, and the blades actually seem to be in really good shape, like almost brand new edge on them. So I think we are pretty good there. I'll clean up underneath the underside of the deck. I'm probably going to take some used motor oil. I've had a couple people say that they at least treat the underside of the deck. So I'm going to get some used motor oil and probably a brush or a rag, and we'll wipe it underneath the bottom here. Just keep it from rusting any farther. So let me get this cleaned up. I'll get it sprayed down, and I'll show you guys how this is supposed to work. All right, and I just finished getting this all cleaned up. It's looking pretty good, other than just a few scuffs on it. There is kind of one spot up here where the paint has chipped, and another spot over here. So I probably will just take some 80 grit or 120, scuff that up, and I do have some John Deere yellow paint for this. So the way this is supposed to work, now you guys can see with that blade brake, this is nice and smooth. Both of the brakes come off just like they're supposed to, and then retract as well, and they both hold the spindles. So everything seems to be operating really well on the deck. At this point, I'm basically just going to go through, probably do another pressure wash on this machine and start detailing. I'll get it buffed up, and I am going to do an oil change on it, so I'll let it run for a little bit, warm it up, change the oil. We're going to do a fuel filter change on it as well. We've got that new battery you guys saw. We got the new plug in here. I do have a new air filter for it, and I'm going to go ahead and grease the front steering. There are Zert fittings on the mowing deck, so I'm going to grease the spindles on it and just kind of go through, clean everything, grease it, and make sure it's all prepped. And I will show you guys once this thing is basically all done and I've got the touch-up paint. We'll take a look over it, and we're going to test everything out and see how good it looks, runs, and cuts. I want to show you guys how nice this turned out. Like I told you guys, I was going to do some touch-up on the mower deck, and this was the side that was all scuffed up. There was a couple other spots on there that I tidied up. When I had this off, I did look at the condition of the belts underneath, and the pulleys and the belts, everything looked good under there. Let's see, we buffed it. I did do a little bit of wipe down with the ATF, and I do plan on getting a different seat cover, and I also want to try the seat repair that Bald Eagle did on his channel. He did seat repair for John Deere, and it turned out pretty good, so I want to try it. Still got to go through and just do the service on it as far as the oil, fuel filter, and air filter. But I've done some test cuts with this, and it performs flawlessly. I leveled out the deck. The front was too high, so I adjusted that, and I've got this thing I think about as dialed in as I'm gonna get it, and it just turned out really nice. I painted the back plate here. Yeah, everything on it's super clean. There's only really one spot here on the body where it's kind of starting to bubble up a little bit, but I mean, for 360 hours on the machine, it turned out really well. So just trying to give you guys a quick overview of how well this cleaned up, and then we're gonna take it for a little spin with the camera. I'm gonna put you guys on the tripod and I'll show you guys some cutting. But yeah, I did a little cutting earlier and it performs excellent. Leaves a really nice cut. Very quiet. All right, and this thing just turned out so nice. I did take off the headlight lens. I put some LED bulbs in here, and it looks really sharp. I'll show you guys the headlights on here. I mean, this is basically a, what, 25-year-old garden tractor. So yeah, I'm really surprised at the cut on here. It's just super level. I hadn't even sharpened the blades yet, but very impressed. Everything is smooth on it. The reverse operation works with the blades on, with that button. Somebody had to tell me a long time ago that you only have to hold the button down when you put it in reverse, and then you can let off, because I never knew on John Deere's that I thought you had to hold the button down the whole time. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think. I was very happy with this machine and really trying to get you guys a video out and something to enjoy. And we've got more coming up on the free mower to $2,000 challenge, and got tons of other crusty lawn tractors that need repair. So as always, I really appreciate you guys checking out the channel. I love hearing from you guys in the comment section, and if you do like this content, think about hitting that thumbs up and that subscribe. And on that note, let freedom ring, let the small engine sing. I'll see you all in the next one.